In this video, we're going to discuss attribution theory. So by the end of the video, you should be able to describe a situational versus a dispositional influence on behavior. You should be able to explain the fundamental attribution error. You should be able to describe the self-serving bias and explain the just world hypothesis. So it's in our nature to always ask and wonder why someone does something or acts a certain way. According to the attribution theory, people are motivated to explain their own and other people's behavior by attributing causes of the behavior to either the situation or a disposition. So a situational attribution says the cause of the action or the cause of the behavior is due to something in the situation, or in other words, in the environment. Whereas a dispositional attribution says the cause of the action or the behavior is due to a personality trait or a personal motive, so a dispositional aspect of the individual. When we look at other people's behavior, we tend to commit what's called the fundamental attribution error. So this is where we overestimate the influence of personality factors or their disposition, and we underestimate situational influences. So in other words, it's easier for us to think of a dispositional attribution than it is a situational attribution when we're thinking about somebody else's behavior. So let's go through an example. So this one here, it says, Susie played really bad in the soccer game today and allowed 6 goals. Now, if we were going to do a situational attribution, we might say, well, maybe she didn't get a good night's sleep, or the field was really muddy in the goalie box. However, it's easier for us to think of a dispositional attribution. She's lazy, she's incompetent, maybe she's not a really good soccer player. So when we use that dispositional attribution and can't consider a situational attribution, we're committing what's called that fundamental attribution error. So we ignore the situational influences and emphasize personality traits. Now, when we think about our own behaviors, we're more likely to be self-serving, and this is called the self-serving bias. So it's the tendency to take credit for your own good actions, but rationalize your mistakes. So when you do something good, you attribute it to a personality trait, a personal motive. It has to do with your disposition. For example, you get an A on a test and you say, it's because you're really smart and you understand the material. However, when you do something bad or embarrassing, you're more likely to use a situational attribution. You want to rationalize why you did something bad or you did something embarrassing. So again, you get an F on a test. You're likely to say the test was unfair, or the professor's really horrible, or you were sick and you didn't have time to study. So you're going to think about something else outside of your own personality, and you're going to think about something in the environment that caused you to do that bad behavior or embarrassing behavior. So you're self-serving in that situation. Here's a little meme that talks about that fundamental attribution error. So if I make coffee and it's bad, it's because I'm a poor cook. But if you make the coffee maker sucks. Let's go through another example. The behavior is that I donated $200 to the Breast Cancer Foundation this month. So a situational attribution might be, well, it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Or my best friend was doing the 3-day breast cancer walk and made me feel guilty about not walking, so I gave her a lot of money to make myself feel better. Long one, but still part of the situation. A dispositional attribution might be, I'm just a generous person. So when we are, again, talking about our own behaviors, here's the I'm more likely to be self-serving. That's that self-serving bias. I'm more likely to make a dispositional attribution and not consider the circumstances around it or the environmental influences. So self-serving bias, again, says we ignore the situational influences when we do something good. We want to take credit for those good behaviors. Here's another example. I yelled at my husband today. Situational attribution might be, well, yeah, it's that time of the month, or I had a stressful day. A dispositional attribution would say, I'm a grouchy person. I have a bad temper. Now, I think we can all agree that, yelling at your husband's probably not a good thing. It's a bad behavior. You should probably if you're upset, you should calmly talk to them and explain what's bothering you. But again, that self-serving bias, we want to make ourselves look good, right? So we're not going to attribute that yelling to a dispositional attribution. We're not going to say, oh, I'm just grouchy or I have a bad temper. We're going to go with those situational influences. So again, self-serving bias, when we've done something bad or embarrassing, we're going to ignore the dispositional influences and focus on those situational attributions. So, along with attribution theory comes something called the just world hypothesis. And this says that our attributions are also affected by the need to believe that the world is fair and just, and that bad people are going to be punished and good people are going to be rewarded. So, when this belief is challenged, we tend to do what's called blaming the victim. So, involves wrongly applying some dispositional attribution to the situation at hand. And we do this, we blame the victim because it restores a belief in a just world. Now, for example, we see here, a homeless individual. Well, we don't want to think that good, honest people could be homeless, although they can be. And so often we make assumptions about them that, they're lazy, they don't want to work, or they must have a mental disorder, or they're on drugs and alcohol. Well, some of that might be true in some cases. More often than not, there's some other reason for it. So again, blaming the victim wrongly attributes a dispositional reason for something that's unjust. And again, the idea is that it's going to restore our belief in a just world.